Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Monday Market Matters webinar, Finding Your Brand. I'm James. I'm the Farmers Market Support Program Manager for Community Farm Alliance. If you are seeing this on YouTube, check us out at cfaky.org. For those of you that are in attendance right now, if you haven't already seen it, come take a look at our blog at cfaky.org/blog. And you'll see we have a branding article that will be, well, Natalie, I suppose it's a partial, it's an introduction to what we're going to talk about today. Without further ado, I think I'm going to toss it over to Natalie.
All right. Can you see my screen?
I can.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you, James, so much. Hello, everyone. My name is Natalie Biesel, and I'm going to be presenting this webinar on branding and marketing. And I'm sure, I know this is like a hot button topic for a lot of people, so we're going to clarify some kind of, miscommunication that's out there about brand and help you guys get started on having a brand that's strategic and cohesive and that helps you grow your business, right? So by the end of this webinar, what I'm really hoping that you'll have is to know what a brand is and why it's important. You'll have a better idea of your brand story and solid resources so you can take action. And you'll also have a few new ways to market your business. My name is Natalie. I've been in design and marketing for almost 20 years in some creative role or capacity. And recently I started, I got bit by the entrepreneurial bug. And so now I work with small business owners and entrepreneurs on growing their business and brand. So that's a little bit about my background. And one thing that I wanted to say up front is that if you guys have any burning questions at all, please post them in the comments or the questions on your webinar screen, because I think that that is going to be something that's super beneficial. There's no judgment here. You can ask any kind of questions at any level, and actually asking questions and talking about them is usually helpful for other members or other people in your same situation. So feel free, ask away, and James is going to let me know if there's any questions that I need to answer. So like I said, this is a safe place to ask all of your brand and marketing questions. And I know there are lots out there. But before we get started, just to kind of give us in the mindset of what we're going to talk about, I want you to think about what your favorite brand is. And once you kind of think about what your favorite brand is, and I know, like for me, for example, one of my favorite brands is Patagonia. That's just an example. Once you kind of like have this brand in mind, really start to think about it and start to consider, how does that brand make you feel? And then another question I want you to consider is, would you pay more if you were buying something, but you knew it was from your favorite brand? And then the bigger question here is why? So this is all just going to kind of get us in the mindset of brands and why it is that we're attracted to brands and why we purchase from brands. This is a screenshot here of Darn Tough, which is also one of my favorite brands. And if you guys aren't familiar with Darn Tough, they make the most amazing like hiking socks. And I want to show you a screenshot of this. Is taken from their homepage. And I want to show you this like kind of mission statement that they have in the middle of their homepage. It says, "One family, one mill, one mission. For almost 40 years, our family has been knitting socks in Northfield, Vermont. We know how to make socks. It's what we do. We're dedicated to creating the world's best socks and prove it by standing behind them unconditionally." So I want to talk about this a little bit because there's a few reasons why this brand is so successful. One, Their mission statement is right up front. It's clear, it hits you over the head. They say, we know how to make socks. It's what we do. And I want you to take note that they don't say, we know how to make socks, and we also know how to, you know, create staplers, or we also can mow your lawn. Like they don't go off track. They're like, we're damn good at making socks. This is what we do, and we stand behind it unconditionally. So this is an example of like a mission statement that is clear, it's succinct, and it's super niche. So when I say niche, it means it's specific, which makes it way more impactful than if they said, hey, we make socks, all kinds of socks, whatever, you know. And so the reason why this works is because they're telling us what they do, and then visually they're backing it up with these photos. And I want you to just kind of look at these photos and see that they were very intentional when they were making these photos. When they put these photos on their site, they have grit. They remind you of the outdoors. They remind you of, like, you know, they're not polished. They're very like unique and specific to that brand. And therefore it serves the brand very well. So just kind of take a look at that and kind of keep it in mind as we move forward. So what the heck is brand? There's a lot of confusion around brand, and you know, rightfully so. Everyone has a different definition of what it is. And I think a lot of times to figure out what something is, you first have to talk about what something isn't. So first and foremost, what a brand is not. A brand is not a logo. It's not your business name, and it's not a font. I would say these are some of brands' biggest misconceptions. People think that, oh, my brand is a logo. No, your logo is a logo, and it's one tiny component of your brand. It's not the whole pie. Maybe it's the cherry on the pie, but it's not the pie. Your business name, also not your brand. One tiny component, but it's not the whole brand. And fonts, same. Like, these are all like small components that can be attributed to a brand, but it really has nothing to do with why a brand is impactful or memorable. So what is a brand with that in mind? It's your unique story. It's your history, and it's the perspective that you bring. It's why you do what you do. It's the value you want to add to the market and the feelings that you want to emit. So think back to this screenshot and look at the tone of this landing page. These photos, they make you want to like go outdoors. They're colorful, but they're consistent, and they all, like I said before, you know, they're not polished. They're very like textured and tactile and real. And they're saying it, you know, this is what we do. We're experts in this. And then they show it with their imagery. So again, it's about the energy. It's like what you're about. That's what your brand is. And then once you figure what it is you're about, you know, in the case of Darn Tough Socks, like they make damn good socks. Then it's the copy and visuals that you are going to use consistently to share that story. And James, let me know if there's any questions that pop in about that. So here, yeah. Oh, I thought you said you had a question. Okay, so why should you care about this? This is the big question here. People buy from brands. Does anyone want to guess what this word is? James, what do you think?
Trust.
Or maybe you're, all right. Dang it, you've already seen the webinar notes. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah. Dang it, James. Okay. So people buy from brands they trust. Think back to the brand that you mentioned at the beginning. Like, for example, I love Patagonia. I love Darn Tough Socks. when you go to Patagonia's website, it has a similar, like, here's our mission statement. These are what we are claiming that we are going to do for the environment when we make our products. This is what we're having in mind. This is the way that we do business. And so people buy from those who, all of us, we buy from those companies who are aligned with our values. And if you don't get clear on your brand, the consumer isn't sure whether or not to trust you or not. If you're not telling them these things, if you're not saying, hey, we go through X, Y, Z steps to make this happen, then they don't know that about you. And then maybe the next person, maybe your competitor, is taking those steps to craft that message. And so that could be, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, that could be the deciding factor whether a potential customer decides to buy from you or not. So really clearly getting clear on your brand message and your brand story and your why is going to really help you start to build that trust. So, okay, so here's a little exercise. I want to share with you, I'm going to read you something, and I want you to tell me which company you would buy from. Okay, so let's say that you want to hire a cleaner to clean your house. You go to company number one's website, and on her website, there's a girl named Laura, and she tells us the story that she graduated with a master's degree before she started her cleaning business. And she worked in corporate for a few short weeks before she decided that she would rather clean toilets than work in corporate. And to be honest, this is a true story. She says that it's important to buy all natural products and pay her workers well, so that's why she charges more. She has warm, inviting photos of her and her staff throughout the site. So that's company number one. And then company number two has a blank white website with the contact info and a stock photo that kind of looks like this. And it says, house cleaner for hire, $20 an hour. So what I want you to ask yourself who you would hire and why. And the reason why this is important is that it's kind of giving you a little bit of an example of why a brand story is so important. Even though this was a very basic example, and of course you would want something that was way more extensive about your story and where you come from and your why. But again, it just shows you, like, we buy from our emotions. And so if we know that story behind it, we're like, oh, wow, of course you're going to buy the one that has the more, like, that connects with you emotionally. And also I want you to ask yourself, did your answer have anything to do with the logo? No, it didn't. Like, and so having a consistent, intriguing brand story is, like I mentioned before, the differentiation factor for a lot of consumers. It doesn't need to be complicated, but it needs to be consistent. And once you get that message consistent, then that's when you can start sharing it on social media and out in the world. So if you're unclear about your brand story, first of all, start with these 4 questions. But then also on one of the attachments, I gave you a brand clarity handout, and it's going to be a deep dive. Print it out, you know, have coffee, like dive in, and it's I think it's like 4 or 5 pages long, and it's just going to allow you to do some nice, like, journaling and reflection and just get really clear on your brand and what's it all about. But you can start with these questions because these are questions that are going to really help you get clear on your brand and how it's different. What frustrates you about the market you're in? How does your business try to do it differently? What makes you unique? Why do you do what you do? These are all great factors in determining your brand story and getting really clear on that. So like I said, download the handout, dig in, and of course, let me know if you have any questions. One thing for you guys to keep in mind, especially in your zone of genius, you want to stay away as far away as you can from cliche language. You know, instead of saying something like, we care about the environment. Okay, what does that mean? Everyone cares about the environment, or everyone could say that they care about the environment, but ask yourself why. Why is that important? You know, get more specific. Tell the consumer or the potential consumer why, what steps that you take to validate that that's what you do. Don't just say we care about the environment. What does that mean? Get specific. What do you actually do that you can start to build trust with people? Like, no, we don't just say we care about the environment. We do X, Y, Z to prove that it's hugely important. It's a huge value. And again, you're trying to attract the people that are aligned with your values, and it's okay if that means excluding some people. Some people are not going to be aligned with you, and that's okay. You're trying to draw in those people that are really aligned with your mission. So, all right. So once you get your brand story in place and you're feeling good and clear, it's a really good idea to create a vision board for your brand. And I want to show you, I'm going to exit out of this PowerPoint, and I want to show you what I mean by this, something that I did for my own brand. And this has to do with the visual side of your brand. So what you have some notes to do this like in the handout, but what I did was when I was starting to think about my brand, I created a Pinterest. This is just called My Brand. It's in Pinterest. And I started saving every time I would see something that I'm like, yes, that is the direction that I want to go. So you can start to see these colors that have this like tone that's consistent. And whenever I recently just got professional headshots, I did the same thing, and I started creating this kind of vision board or mood board around the look and feel that I wanted to emit. So if you had to describe my brand, you know, it's very like earth tones and grays and textures and natural, you know, so it definitely has a look and feel. And then if you go over here, when I was collecting, I did the same thing in this stock photo house, which I shared that you have all these links. I give you links to everything in the handout. I just started saving images that I knew that felt like where my brand was headed. So if you start scrolling down, I mean, wow, like they just have like the same colors, the same like kind of look and feel, and they're not exactly the same, but you can see how they all kind of complement one another. So for the visual side of your branding, this is something to keep in mind. Like, what kind of tone do you want to create? What kind of feelings do you want to evoke? What do you want people to feel when they're looking at the visual component to your brand? And this is a great way to do it. And I like doing this and then creating like color schemes and things like that first, because this is a better way to just be like, oh, I didn't even really realize that it was kind of headed in this direction. And it'll kind of give you an indicator of what your likes and dislikes are as well. Okay, and
so
here's
Natalie,
another.
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
So in a lot of cases we have representatives of markets here. So if they were to go through this exercise of sort of narrowing down sort of the look and feel of the brand of the market, would you recommend that be sort of a single sort of person running that and then bringing it to the group, if it needs to be a group decision, or would you want it to be more of a group exercise?
Yeah, I think it's always best to have dedicate like an expert to going through that process, and you can totally do something like this that more like represents your market. And you can start to just search through these photos and start to save photos that you're like, you know what, that represents the tone that we want to represent. And I would definitely have one person start out and then present it to the group and say, okay, this is what I have. This is how I see it going. And, you know, do you guys think I'm far off? Because the struggle is, if you do it as a group, then everybody has like this different idea and it's going to start to feel disjointed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just imagining some of the folks on this webinar. You know, they have assorted sort of professional relationships with the people in their markets, and I could see it being a difficult exercise. So I thought I'd bring that up.
Yeah, and one of the things that I suggest, like for the market specifically, and this is on the handout, you'll see this note, is for like, if you want to up level your brand exponentially, hiring a photographer, you know, a local photographer to come and shoot photos of your market would be an amazing idea. And then it's like, you know, this is just like using stock photos to supplement your brand, but by hiring someone to do it professionally, oh man, that's one of the best ways that you can take your marketing to the next level. And then it's real. It's not like, hey, here's a representation of a market that we think is, it's like, oh, this is, you know, these are people interacting. This is like the community feel, you know, and you can give your photographer a shot list that says, look, we want to show community. And you go back to that, you know, the words that you want to, you know, go back to your elevator pitch. If you're focused on community, how can we get shots that represent that? And then you can use those shots for all of your marketing materials. You know, you can have it on posters, you can have it on your social media, and you can really use those for a lot of different purposes. So yeah. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. I'm trying
cool.
One of the challenges that photographers present is that most of these markets are high noon kind of markets, so the light's a little tricky, a little harsh. But
yeah,
you know, pros can figure that out.
Yeah, exactly. I actually posted 3 photographers that I recommend on the brand resources page. It's on the back page, and who just do amazing work. And I think, like I said, besides marketing, like having pro photography, and it's not like outrageously expensive. You know, of course there are outrageous photographers, but you can get something for less than $500 and have enough photos for the entire year. So like high quality photos is just one of those investments that's going to pay off in the long run. That's what I recommend anyway.
Okay.
Let's see. And this is just another example of like kind of the look and feel of maybe like a winery or something would put, you know, it's like just another example of the vision board that you could ultimately pull colors from. Any more questions about brands? And like I said, you have a brand clarity so everyone can do their own exercise like after this webinar and just like dive in and learn more. And then there's also like practical tips for branding. And I gave you a bunch of resources and the stock photo house that I was just visiting and all that. So you have all this information just to let everyone know, because it's a lot. No questions? James?
Oops, sorry, I was on mute. Nothing's popping up.
Okay, cool.
I wonder, I haven't seen the entirety of your slideshow, but I'm wondering at the end if we could walk through that that questionnaire just a little bit, just to kind of show it off a little.
Yeah, sure. No problem.
Okay.
All right. So once you do the handout and you're clear on your brand, it's time to share it with the world. So let's see. I want to ask everyone, what steps have you taken to market your market? And if anyone has any answers that you want to share, please let us know. And I think the other question to ask, if you're listening to this later or whatever, is how is that working for you? I think the tricky thing with this is we have to make time to market. Sometimes that's the hardest thing to do, sharing what we're doing, but it's the most important thing. Like, you can have the most amazing brand and you can have the most amazing products or services, or like your market could kick all the other markets' butts, but if you're not sharing that with the world, then it doesn't matter. And so in my opinion, marketing is actually key. It's like probably even top priority over brand. I mean, brand is important because you have to be clear on what you're doing first so that you can scream it to the rooftops. Because let's be honest, if you don't really know what you stand for, or you haven't said it a million times and you can't like say it, you know, like if you're not comfortable saying specifically what it is you're about, then it's hard to market. And so that's where that brand clarity worksheet will help you get clear so that you can share it. Marketing is non-negotiable. Sorry, guys. And another reason why it's not, why it is non-negotiable is because if you create this beautiful space but you don't have people come to it, you're leaving money on the table, essentially. And so even if your brand isn't perfect, and none of our brands are perfect, you need to market your business. You need to market what you're doing. And because if people, like I said, if people don't know what you're doing on the regular, then you're just waiting for chance instead of being proactive about how many people know about what's going on. But at the same time, it does not have to be crazy expensive. You're trying to reach your ideal customers, not everyone. And so the first thing that I would do is think about where your potential customers hang out. I mean, a good idea is to get clear on what that potential customer is. And then just to brainstorm some ideas. Here are some ideas for print. You could do magazine ads, whether that's, you know, full page or in the back of the magazine or whatever that looks like. Traditional advertising, local newspapers, handouts, posters are in places where your ideal customers hang out, grocery stores, whatever that looks like. Get the word out and figure out where people are. You don't have to put it everywhere, but if you know that everyone goes to this one natural grocer, there should always be posters about events that are going on. There should always be posters about like the market and the times and the hours. There should always be, and you want to refresh that, you know, keep it updated so that it's exciting. Share like what events are happening and create promotions around it to draw people in. Think of, you know, brainstorm other reasons besides the general market why people would want to come and show up. Create an incentive for that. And so, to be honest, as far as marketing digitally, social media is probably going to be the best bang for your buck. And to your point, James, you know, hopefully you guys, I'm not sure how it works. Maybe you have someone that can be assigned as the social media expert, or you hire someone. And again, you're just going to want to, like, millions of people are on Facebook. So if you're not advertising on Facebook, again, you're leaving money on the table. So Facebook, Pinterest, Twitter, or any online communities or groups, there's all kinds, thousands and thousands of Facebook groups out there, you know, that you can just start to have a conversation with. Make sure that they know what you guys are up to. And then everyone, I'm hoping that this is already happening, but everyone should have their own Facebook business page where you tell everyone what you're doing. And this should be like something that you post on the regular. Like have someone, I suggest having someone that's all they do. They have like, not only do you have events, but you're posting quotes and like, you know, anything that's like in your brand, like pictures or like, you know, details of what's going on with your business or like interesting articles that you're reading. If you can keep your users' interest or your customers really, or anyone that's following you, keep them interested, keep them engaged, keep them, you know, teach them stuff about things that they may not know about the market. These are all ways that you can constantly be in contact with people. And again, that starts to build that trust that we talked about before. Another thing yeah.
I have a question. How frequently
Sure.
would you want to post? How frequently do you think is enough? Like,
I don't think you can
right
post
amount
enough.
Okay.
I think you could post 3 times a day and it still wouldn't be annoying. I mean, there's some, you know, experts out there that are posting hourly. I mean, there's really no limit, but I would definitely post at least once every day. And one of the resources that I'll actually add it to the list, I forgot. There's this website called Buffer, and I use it as well. And Buffer is a social media management tool. It's an app. It's super easy to use, but if you're like me and you don't even like social media, but you know that it's imperative for your business, what you can do is find all the things that you want to post, the quotes, the events, and then you can schedule it for weeks or months in advance. So you could have someone just do that on the regular and post it for the entire week. And then it's pretty much just like a schedule that you can set the time and the day. And it's really easy to use. And I think it's either free or maybe it's $10 a month, but I think there might be a free version. I can keep you posted about that.
Well, I know Facebook does, you can schedule posts through Facebook, but does Buffer do something does it make it more user-friendly to do so?
Yeah, I think it is user-friendly. You can do as many as you want. You could put in 100. You could set it for the whole year if you wanted to. And you can really easily like drag and drop, and you can connect multiple social media accounts. So like, let's say you wanted to post it to your one group, you know, one Facebook group or Facebook page, one market group, and as well as the CFA, whatever. So like, as long as like you've got a lot of control and a lot of options for posting like in a big batch versus just one-off. I'm not sure how Facebook runs, but Buffer is really a great app for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the other thing is friends and family email. This is just such a simple, like old school marketing technique that everyone forgets about, but it's so impactful. If you're looking for business or to like, you know, outreach, like have more customers, you know, who's in your network? Like send all of your friends and family emails, everyone in your network, and say, hey, this is what we're up to now. I'm really excited that we are up to this. And just to let you know that there's a market happening on, and make it casual, make it be like, no, I was just thinking about you the other day because blah, 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 blah. And I just wanted to like share the exciting news that we're actually, you know, we've updated our brand recently. That would be a really good excuse to email people and your network. And these could be business acquaintances, friends, family, anyone that is in your network really. And just say, hey, and just to let you know, go to our website, check us out, follow us on social media so you can stay up to date with our events. And just ask for people and say, and if you know of anyone that's looking for a great market in this area, please send them our information. I mean, really such a simple method, and it works so well because it all comes down to numbers. You know, the more you send, the more people who are actually going to share or participate.
Mm-hmm. You touched on something actually that I'm sort of wondering about now. which is updating the brand. So say we do this exercise, our markets do this exercise. Is there a certain amount of time that we should stay with the outcomes of this exercise before we sort of explore doing it again?
Yeah, I think being consistent, once you get super clear on your brand and where you want to go, just start being consistent with it. You don't have to, you know, scream it to the rooftops that that's what you're doing, but just try to be consistent with it for a while. And I think that is better than like doing it for a month and then deciding like, actually, we don't like this. Like just, you know, maybe stick with it for 3 to 6 months and see how it works for you. Because actually doing that is going to be better than changing it rapidly. And I would say, you know, the changes that you make might not be crazy. They might be, you just stop using some things that you realize are out of your brand versus adding new things. And like you might notice, but the consumer probably won't if you just transition into a more kind of cohesive look and feel. So really you're kind of just moving out of these like bad habits of brand and into like doing it a little better. And that can be so subtle that they might not even notice, but you'll definitely start to like, your brand will start to improve. Does that make sense? Like it's kind of like an evolution, I guess.
Well, and you know, it occurs to me now, just sort of having this conversation with you, that I'm looking at the folks on this webinar. Almost all of them run markets that are seasonal. So there's a natural window to kind of explore, refresh in the off season.
Yeah, definitely. And you can play around with it. And most of the time, like I said, you're not going to do a major overhaul, and you probably shouldn't. Mm-hmm. But just like every evolution of a brand it has evolved from the past version. So it just gets better. It doesn't like change drastically. And so that's kind of nice about it.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so kind of bringing it back to the slide, the marketing brainstorming thing. Prioritize. So a lot of our markets are gonna be in a situation where budgets are tight. Buying print ads are going to be unfortunately going to be a significant piece of a marketing budget. So would you prioritize digital over everything else if you maybe boosting ads, for example, on Facebook over print? Or does it depend on the sort of the market space?
Yeah, it totally depends on the market. First, I think you have to get clear on where the people are, who you want to target specifically. So if you want to target the younger crowd, you know, everyone is on social media, no doubt. Like most people are on social media. And, you know, so I like to start with a variety. I would start with, you know, using some, like hiring someone for social media strategy could really, I mean, take your business to the next level and get you a lot of traffic to your, you know, to your Facebook page. But then again, you know, maybe like a lot of people go to the market and hear about it from the store or whatever. It's like, figure out where most of your, try to like, you know, figure out where these people are finding the information and then like amplify that or put more into that, what's working. And then if you do that and you don't see enough increase, then I would just, you know, try something new. Another thing that you could do is advertise like on the radio. Do you guys do that at all? Like NPR or any?
We don't at CFA. I think we're looking at doing some more stuff for our Kentucky Double Dollars program, which I think I've talked to you about. but right now, I think we're primarily focused on digital and going through sort of government channels.
Yeah.
But I think there will be a couple of print ads going out as well.
Yeah, so if I were going to use my money, number one, I would get pro photos. That would be the first step that I would do. And then I would do the print things that I could do on the budget, like print posters. I mean, you can print posters for a few dollars, check in with local newspapers, like how much does it cost? Maybe a couple $100, like go for it. But then I would put the rest of my resources really in my social media page. I would make sure that it has great content going on the regular. Because here's the thing, if you just check in every once in a while and people don't hear from you for 3 months and you're just like, hey, we've got this event, no one cares. No one's going to follow you. But if you're adding value, if you're like, hey, here's this really educational article on why markets are XYZ, and here's this inspirational quote, and here's this, and check out this, and oh, did you know we're doing this? And did you see this cool farmer meet John Doe, whatever. And so when you are adding value in that way, you're going to start to you're going to have followers, and you're going to have more followers and more followers. And guess what? If you have 1,000 people in that group, and then you're like, hey guys, we have this event, now you have 1,000 people immediately who know about your event versus like, just taking a risk that Facebook ad or that a print ad will get seen. So I would definitely do digital, especially Facebook. And I'm not familiar with Pinterest marketing, but I've heard good things about it. And I think there's some experts out there who are using Pinterest and getting some good, like having some good results. But like low hanging fruit, Facebook is where you want to focus, like building that network, adding value, creating that group, keeping it updated on the consistent. And Canva is one of the resources that I posted where you can create templates and things like that to use for Facebook, like visual templates.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But the other just tip with a photographer is, maybe there's a photographer. I just think like photography is one of the like most rewarding assets that you can invest in. But what you want to do is just keep the same photographer. Maybe if it's seasonal markets, the same person is showing up in all the markets, because then you have visual content that you can use throughout the year, because you have some taken in the spring and you have some taken in the fall or whatever, So now you have all this great like you have the visuals to tell the story that you want to tell, and it's true and it's real and it's not stock photos. So, and then you can do the, where you take portraits of people who are involved, and you're doing like, hey, meet so-and-so, they're in charge of this. And again, all of this is an effort to build trust, build community, and essentially build your brand.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I derailed. I don't know where you were. I don't know how many slides we have left, but we're at
no, that's it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's it. This is just I have my email address on here. If anyone wants to reach out and ask questions, I know this can be like totally overwhelming information. So feel free to email me if you have any questions. It's also on the handout. And or if you have any questions about any of the resources that I suggested as well.
Cool. Does anyone have any questions? I'm going to take, while we see if anyone's got any questions, why don't I take this screen back, and then we'll take a look at the handout here.
Okay.
So this is this kind of follows a lot by the format that's in the blog, but now you can print this out and fill in the answers yourself. And what you're really looking for is sort of the interesting aspects of the history and place in your community that your market sort of serves. So, you know, in some cases, the history part of your market is going to be your brand new market, but there may be sort of a historical aspect to the farmers market coming back. Maybe the market was gone, but the farmers market has come back to serve what historically has been an agricultural community or something to that nature. So, I mean, these are the sort of things that you are trying to tease out through this questionnaire. So I hope you guys find it helpful. Natalie put in a good amount of time on this presentation, and you know, I think there's a lot of good stuff in here. And I want to say that I'm more than happy to tease this stuff out with you if you'd like. Babette is asking how soon. Babette, I think it should be in the control panel. If you take a look at the control panel on the right-hand side, there should be a drop-down menu where the questions section is that says that you should be able to download the handout from there. I will also send them out in the follow-up emails when I have the YouTube link live, so you can take a look then. But I think you guys are all looking at my screen right now, aren't you? Let me
yes.
get that up. So the last thing on here, there are a couple of really good resources that I've only dabbled in. I haven't done a lot with. We do use, CFA does use Canva a lot. And I'm hoping that is on here somewhere.
Yes, it is. It's right there in the middle of articles, or it says for DIY social media posts, Canva, yeah, the link is there. And all of the links should work on the PDF. If you just click them, the link should work on the document.
Yeah, they do. Cool.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of really great resources within this that'll help you kind of build out how to tell your story, which is sort of the key to this. Once you kind of are comfortable with the story of your market and what you want people, how you want people to kind of feel when they come to your market, think about your market, miss your market, that, you know, there are ways that we can try to tease that out, and that's the goal here. Yeah, and ultimately there is no substitute for pro photographers, but we can go over, maybe someday we'll go over some basic photography rules for social media stuff, since we're dealing with a lot of volunteer labor. But yeah, I think that's, yeah, don't hesitate to ask us any questions if you guys have any. But at this point, I think we must have blown everybody's minds. So.
Oh, I bet that's, yeah, totally. All right, that was the goal. Mind blown.
Good. So yeah, don't be afraid to use stock photos for stuff either. If you have an idea for a Facebook post, for example, about, let's say you have asparagus coming into your market. So you're lucky enough to have an asparagus grower at your market. But they, I don't know if any of you have ever been to a field where asparagus is grown, but it's not exactly pretty. So, you know, it might be good to find just a good stock photo of asparagus. They can be pretty photogenic, but it's easier to go find. It's easier to go. There's so many people who make stock photos. It's easier to just go get one than go make a new picture. So.
And that one that's, James, to add to that, that one that's mentioned, Unsplash, like the photography is ridiculously gorgeous. I mean, iStock Photo and general stock photo houses, you have a variety, but like the photos on this site are, well, first of all, they're free and they're absolutely gorgeous. So, and like I said, you can start to develop like a look and feel so that, yeah, I mean, look at that, it's beautiful.
Yeah, these are nice.
So, you know, then the next time you go and you want to make, like, use the asparagus photo, well, now you want to post a photo of strawberries. Well, how can I find one, you know, that's consistent with the asparagus? Just start to think more in like consistent, not like, hey, I like this one the best, but what's more consistent with the ones that I've used before? And then that's how you slowly start to evolve into that more cohesive brand.
Cool. Okay. So I think the largest takeaway where I'm sitting is oh, we got a question from Woody. Let's see. How short is too short and how long is too long for a brand?
For a
So
brand?
I guess that would be like how, like, Woody, maybe you can help me clarify this. Do you mean and you can type this into the questions bar. Do you mean like how long is that? How short is too short for an elevator pitch element of the brand?
Yeah. So in my opinion, if that's what you're asking, that having the short and sweet version nailed down is going to be your best friend. People, you know, you can totally go into your story. Let's say you're writing up an article about your market in a magazine. Of course, you're going to dive in deeper. But when it comes to your elevator pitch, short, succinct, to the point. This is what we do. This is who we serve. This is how we do it. This is how we're different. That's what people are going to take away. They don't want to go, you know, 400 years ago, it all started with Uncle Sam, and then Uncle Sam, like, okay. That another context, another place, maybe that's interesting, but for the elevator pitch, make it like hit them over the head with clarity. Like this is what we do. This is how we do it. This is how we're doing it different. And again, with you guys, just try to avoid cliches. Like try not to use the cliched word as much as possible because everyone is saying it. Everyone is saying sustainable. Everyone is saying, you know, natural. Like, please don't use those words. Break it down. Like, what does that mean when you say natural? Like, what does that mean to you? Because then people are like, oh, I get it. Like, you're doing this specific thing. I get that. Not like, you know, we're a natural, blah, blah, blah. Okay, what the heck does that mean? Because everyone says that. Does that answer your question, Woody?
Yeah, and he has a follow-up.
Okay.
They use this phrase, providing locally grown farm fresh produce from the heart of Appalachia. How do you like that?
I like it. I think it's a good start. I think so many people are saying farm fresh now. Maybe it worked probably better in the past, but can you read it? Can you read it again, James?
Providing locally grown farm fresh produce from the heart of Appalachia.
I love from the heart of Appalachia part.
Yeah.
Because that actually differentiates it. And I would just try to get even more specific with the other. You know, what does farm fresh mean? What does that actually farm raised? Like, what does that mean? And it might take like brainstorming and getting more specific, like, you know, in your journal or whatever first before you can like really start to pare it down, if that makes sense. Like you kind of need to just like brain vomit all of it out, like, because you know what's going to come out are all of the cliches because it happens for all of us. But then when you start to dive in and pick in the little nuggets, like, okay, how is this actually different from everyone else? Like if everyone else is doing farm fresh, like what do we do that's specifically different? And you're going to find little gems of content that way to use.
Yeah, so to give you some context, Woody is, he manages the Harlan County Farmers Market down in Eastern Kentucky. And so
Gotcha.
I'd say that your primary competition for produce is probably just the local grocery store.
Oh, okay. Well, then in that case, yeah, I think it does work.
Mm-hmm.
If the competition is just not farm raised and that's all there is, then yeah, that would work in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there can be some qualifiers in there. Woody, I can't say that I've been to your grocery store, so I don't know if any of them do sell anything locally grown. But you could even put in there, you are the only market providing locally grown, if that's the case.
Absolutely, absolutely. And make that clear. We are the only locally grown source in this area, and get specific about what the area is, because then now you're talking about it, you're getting really specific, which is great for your elevator pitch. Just think like when you're doing your elevator pitch, generics are not good. Super specific is great.
Yeah. So if any of you, open invite, if any of you'd like me to help you with or join in on this exercise with you, I'm more than happy to do so. I just need, I'll just wait for an invitation before I butt my nose into your activity. So, but yeah, this unsplash.com, you've been seeing me kind of just sort of scroll around in just the keyword farmers market. There's lots of nice stuff in here. There's obviously plenty of things in here that don't grow here. But they're good nuggets. So, you know, if you're going to have fresh onions, if you ever have fresh onions on market day, you get a lovely picture of some yellow onions here that will kind of give you an idea of what can be at the market. I mean, yeah, I know that yellow onions are a little different for us, but you know, just as an example. So. I mean, ideally, when you're picking up what's the word? Stock photos, you ideally want to kind of I think you want to make sure that it looks like it could be something that was taken at your in your community as well. So, is that fair to say?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you wouldn't want to use, you know, photos of an Asian market at on your website, but if it's not perfect, that's still okay. I think like drawing people in, because the average consumer isn't going to be like, hey, now those aren't, you know, blah 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 onions, those are blah. So like it's okay if you choose a visual that's not 100%, that you really feel like represents like the tone, because that's the most important thing. Like visually draw them in. People are drawn in by imagery. And so if you have this great photo on your poster, people are going to be like, whoa, what is that? Oh, there's a market. You know, have a beautiful photo of the market. Don't go for a mediocre photo, because that's what everyone is doing. And this unsplash that James is scrolling through is the best, like, these are the best, most high quality stock photos houses that I've seen.
Yeah, these are really
if you go to like iStock, you're going to see more like standard white background images, and just like, they still have a good selection, but you'll have to dig through a little bit more. But yeah, these are great. I mean, and the fact that they're free is just, yeah, beautiful. I want that pizza now.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, we're about 5 minutes over our target. So if anyone has any questions, speak now, or we'll be wrapping up. We'll kind of give you 10 seconds. And while anyone's typing, I believe I'm fairly certain I have a survey at the end of this webinar. Please take it to let us know how you felt things went. It really informs us to make sure that we are on the right track with with providing useful content to the markets so that they can and want to use it. So, you know, there's no hard feelings if there's something about this that you don't feel like it applies to you. However, we got enough sort of hints that we thought that this was worth trying. So please let us know how you liked it, and we'll go from there. So thank you, Woody, for coming. Thank you to everybody else for coming, and have a great Monday. Stay cool out there. And Natalie, thank you so much for being with us today.
Absolutely, and best of luck to everyone. And one thing that I'll say is, you know, now that you're learning more about brand, I think everyone tends to go a little bit on the perfectionist side. Once you find out like what you haven't known, you're like, oh no, I have to be perfect. No, it does not have to be perfect. Just try to make it as consistent as possible. Take action, keep putting yourself out there, and you'll eventually get something you're really happy with. A lot of times it doesn't start that way, but it will evolve into that. So no worries if it's not perfect right now. Just keep going. And good luck. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
All right. Well, take care, everyone. And again, if you are finding this on YouTube, check us out at cfaky.org. We are the Community Farm Alliance. This is the Farmers Market Support Program, and we work with local farmers here in Kentucky to build our communities. So take a look and see if you like what you see. Consider becoming a member. And everyone else, thank you so much for coming, and we'll see you next month. Take care. Bye-bye.